Hello, my name is Lucy. And on the morning of my wedding, someone I trusted locked me away like a secret they were desperate to bury. I didn't scream at first. I couldn't, because the moment that door clicked shut, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't the first time my family tried to make me disappear. I woke to darkness, so complete it felt poured over me, thick and deliberate, as if someone had painted it onto my skin. For a moment, I didn't know where I was. The air was stale, heavy with dust, and when I tried to lift my head, the side of my face brushed against a wooden shelf, cold, splintered, and unforgiving. My shoulder pulsed with a dull ache. My dress, the one I'd chosen months ago with such quiet hope, clung to me in wrinkled folds. It smelled faintly of the perfume I dabbed on my wrists that morning, sweet at first, now sour in the heat. Somewhere beyond the walls, music thumped lightly. Strings, laughter, footsteps. The prelude to a wedding, my wedding, happening without me. My pulse began to hammer in the same rhythm, each beat a warning. Something was very wrong. I inhaled sharply. Dust scraped my throat. The room was too small, too tight, too dark. Not a room, a closet. The kind used to hide brooms, extra linens, old things no one wanted to see. That realization sliced through me. I reached out, palms flat against the door, and pushed. Nothing moved. The wood didn't budge. My breath stumbled. I pushed harder. A tremor traveled through my arms, and my nails dragged across the surface, catching on something rough. A splinter jabbed beneath my thumbnail, and the sting forced a small cry out of me. Hello. My voice shook. Can someone hear me? Silence. Only the muffled echo of celebration outside. The world carrying on. Without me. I swallowed hard. A memory, sharp, uninvited, rose up like cold water. The pantry door closing when I was 8, my mother saying it was an accident, that I was too emotional when I panicked. Another one being told to stop overreacting when I cried after being shut alone in the laundry room because Seraphine wanted quiet to study. My chest tightened. I wasn't imagining the darkness pressing in on me. My past was repeating itself. I wiped my palms against my dress and tried the door again, pushing with my shoulder this time, using every bit of strength my shaking body could gather. Nothing. My breath grew shallow. The closet felt smaller with every exhale. I'm here, I whispered to no one. To myself. To something in me that had gone quiet for too long. I didn't just end up in here, someone put me here. And saying those words aloud made the truth land heavier than the darkness. A soft creak snapped my attention to the other side of the door. Footsteps, light, hesitant. Someone paused. My heart froze mid-beat. A shadow shifted under the doorframe. My fingers curled against the wood. A whisper slipped through the crack, barely audible. I'm sorry. Maritza, the housekeeper. I knew her voice. Gentle, worn from years of swallowing words. I pressed my palm to the door. Please open it. I'm locked in. I can't, please. Her breath caught. I heard her hand touch the knob, then retreat. Quiet steps backing away. Faster. Fading. No, I choked. Don't go. Don't leave me in here. But she did. And that told me everything. Someone had warned her. Someone had put me here and expected no one to interfere. I leaned my forehead against the wood. My skin felt clammy. The perfume on my wrist had turned sharp, metallic. My dress clung to my spine like a web. I forced another breath, then another. I reached up and felt along the edge of the door. That's when my fingers brushed cold metal. The mechanism, the latch. It wasn't inside. It was on the outside. A lock meant for storage, for keeping things out of sight. My stomach dropped. This wasn't an accident. This wasn't a misunderstanding. Someone had locked the door from the outside and walked away. Images flickered like broken film. Seraphine that morning, smiling too sweetly, her hand resting on my arm longer than necessary. Her voice soft, almost pitying. You should rest, Lucy. You look overwhelmed. Come with me. I know a quieter spot. Her guiding me down this very hallway, her fingers tightening just slightly when we reached the end, her eyes shifting away as if she couldn't quite meet mine. My whisper came out cracked. Seraphine did this. The truth didn't fall gently. It struck like a stone thrown straight into my chest. I gripped the doorframe, trying to keep my breath steady, but panic clawed at me again. My thoughts spiraled. Why? Why now? Why today? Before I could gather myself, a new sound reached me. A door farther down the hall opened. Voices drifted in, faint but growing clearer. I heard my name, not shouted, spoken, like someone calling a pet that wandered off. I pressed my ear to the door. Footsteps approached. Slow, purposeful. A voice I knew too well floated toward me. Unhurried, smooth as silk dipped in venom. Where is she? She should have been back by now. Seraphine. My nails curled into my fist, the splinter still lodged beneath one. My breath steadied, even as my heart raced. For the first time since waking in that darkness, something inside me hardened. I wasn't trapped by the door. I was trapped by my own family. And then Seraphine's voice drifted closer, sweet as poison, laced with the ease of someone who'd already won. I could still hear the echo of her heels clicking down the hall long after she passed. That sound didn't leave me when I got out. It settled somewhere deeper, next to every time my name was spoken with a hint of disappointment or not spoken at all. 2 days earlier, I was sitting at the dining table in the house I once called home. The afternoon light outside had given up trying to break through the heavy clouds. It filled the kitchen with a muted grayness that somehow made everything feel more fragile. Seraphine was upstairs humming that same off-key tune she'd used to practice in high school when she wanted attention without asking for it. My mother, Vera, clanged dishes in the kitchen with a rhythm that felt too cheerful for the way my stomach twisted. A package sat in front of me, cream-colored box, gold lettering, our wedding crest embossed in foil. I lifted the lid and carefully peeled away the tissue. The invitation stared back at me like a stranger. His name was there, bold, centered, beautiful. Callan James Davenport. But mine, nowhere. Not Lucy. Not bride. Not even a pronoun. Beneath the card was a note. Don't worry, honey. Seraphine already handled the design. My hands trembled. The box slipped. The card landed on the floor, face up, his name glowing in the dim light like he was marrying no one. I didn't realize it then, but that moment changed everything. I heard footsteps and turned. My mother entered, wiping her hands on a towel, her smile wide and easy. Oh, did the invites arrive? Aren't they stunning? I nodded once. Too stiff. too careful. I love that gold. Seraphine said it reminded her of your grandmother's mirror. She didn't look at me as she spoke, just kept arranging the tulips in the vase beside the sink as if the most important part of the day had already happened. I wanted to ask why no one showed me the final version. I wanted to ask who decided I didn't belong on the card announcing my own wedding. But the questions caught in my throat like a swallowed scream. And I knew why. They never needed me to agree, just to comply. Looking back now, I should have seen it coming. My 16th birthday. Vera had picked everything: cake, color, guest list. I remember standing in the kitchen, holding a plate of cake I didn't even ask for, while Seraphine danced around in my shoes. College applications? Stay close, she said. It's practical. Plus, your sister could use your help with the twins. Every big decision in my life had been filtered through someone else's lens. And suddenly I saw it all, one long hallway of choices I never really made. That's where it all started. Later that night, I was sorting through a box of old papers in my room when I found it folded, water-stained, torn along one edge. My application for the statewide speech competition. High school, junior year. I remembered staying up late, writing and rewriting. I rehearsed in the mirror for hours. But the morning of the event, Vera said we only had one car and Seraphine needed it for a college interview. I'll drive you next time, she said, but there wasn't a next time. Later, I overheard her whisper to my aunt, she's just not ready. What if she embarrasses us? One line of the application was still visible through the watermarks. Reason for applying, because no one expects me to. I didn't cry. I folded it gently and placed it back in the envelope, not to remember, but to remind. Not of the moment I was excluded, but of the moment I stopped fighting to be included. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. The following morning, Seraphine walked into the living room with her phone in hand and her voice syrupy with faux surprise. Oh, you opened them already? Don't worry. I used the same font from my campaign gala. Super elegant. I stared at her. There's no Lucy on them. She smiled, unbothered. People know it's your wedding. You're the bride, aren't you? Then she tilted her head and said it like she was doing me a favor. Unless you think people need reminding. My jaw clenched. I didn't speak. Not yet. But something cracked just slightly, like glass under too much pressure. She didn't see it. That's the thing about people like Seraphine. They're so used to looking in mirrors, they forget other people are windows. Later, after she left, I sat at the table alone, the card back in my hand. I began folding it. Once, then again, until the gold lettering creased into pieces and the paper refused to lie flat anymore. Then I picked up a pen and scrawled my name across the envelope in thick black ink. Lucy, as if I could write myself back into existence. Maybe it wasn't about being forgotten. Maybe they never planned for me to be seen in the first place. I didn't know what would come of that defiance. That night, my phone buzzed. Callan, your dad just sent the official guest list to the press. Want me to forward it to you? I opened the attachment, a spreadsheet, a list of tables and names. I searched and searched again. Bride's side, blank. My hands went cold. They didn't forget me. They were practicing life without me in it. The air inside the rehearsal hall felt too filtered, like someone had tried to purify every ounce of authenticity out of it. Even the flowers smelled wrong, too polished, too overdone. I stepped through the side entrance, my heels catching on the rug someone had failed to tape down. A metaphor, maybe. Nothing was grounded anymore. I was still carrying the weight of that spreadsheet in my chest. The one that listed everyone except me. Bride was a placeholder on paper, not a role anyone seemed to think I should inhabit. That's when I saw it, the dress. The mannequin stood like a silent accusation in the middle of the fitting room. But the gown it wore? Not mine. My original choice had long, sheer sleeves, a simple satin skirt. Classic. Quiet. Me. This one didn't belong to me at all. The sleeves were gone. The neckline plunged too deep, and there, wrapped tight around the waist, was a glimmering gold sash I would never have chosen. It clung to the bodice like a prize ribbon handed out at a beauty pageant. I stepped closer, touching the fabric. The zipper was tighter, too. Intentionally so. My pulse ticked faster, each beat like a warning bell. Then I heard her behind me, that voice I could recognize in any crowd, no matter how soft she tried to make it sound. "Oh, you noticed the upgrades? I couldn't let you walk out in something that plain." I turned slowly. "You changed my dress," I said. Seraphine tilted her head, amused. "I refined it. You needed something more elevated." I didn't approve any changes. "You didn't need to," she said, smiling. "I did, for your own good." She said it the way you'd say, "The doctor gave you the medicine. You'll thank me later." Looking back now, I should have walked out right then. Instead, I nodded once, biting the inside of my cheek, so hard I tasted copper. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. When I reached the reception room, the coordinator greeted me with that brand of tight-lipped cheer only people in customer service master after years of swallowing frustration. "Just in time," she chirped. "We're previewing the intro video." The lights dimmed. A projector flickered to life. The screen lit up with childhood photos, family clips, smiling faces. Callan's mother laughing on a beach. My father holding a glass and toasting to the new chapter. Vera sharing a stage story of how Lucy always knew how to love quietly. Then Seraphine, front and center, standing in front of a microphone, perfectly lit, polished, rehearsed. I waited to hear my voice, waited to see a single frame that showed me more than a flash of a child licking frosting off a cake in the corner of a frame. But it never came. My name appeared briefly, under that one photo, 8 years old, alone, eating quietly at a birthday party that hadn't been mine. "Isn't this moving?" the coordinator asked, clapping lightly as the video faded out. I couldn't speak. Finally, I forced out, "Can we re-edit it?" She glanced towards Seraphine, who was already shaking her head. "It's being streamed in 6 hours," Seraphine said, her tone low but firm. "There's no time." That's when I started to feel it, this slow, sinking pressure in my chest, like standing on a frozen lake that had just started to crack. I didn't realize it then, but that was the first time I wanted to scream. I stepped outside to breathe. Callan found me in the hallway. He saw how tight I held the glass of water in my hand, the imprint of my grip etched into the plastic like a warning sign. "I can talk to the videographer," he said gently. "We'll say the files got corrupted. We'll make something new. Just say the word." I shook my head. "It won't fix the message they're already telling people." He looked at me long and quiet, then said, "Then tell yours louder." I didn't know what that would look like. Not yet. We returned to the prep room to go over the final details. The coordinator ran down the agenda: vows, music, reception layout, honeymoon check-ins. Then she paused. Honeymoons booked under Melissa Davenport. Correct. My head jerked up. Melissa? I repeated. Seraphine smiled, stepping in. That's me, sweetheart. I booked everything. Flights, resort, itinerary. Figured you had enough on your plate. You booked our honeymoon? Well, you're marrying a billionaire. Someone has to make sure it all looks right. My voice dropped. You mean someone has to make sure I don't mess it up? She laughed. Not a sound of joy. A sound meant to cut. You said it, not me. I excused myself. I didn't cry in the stall. Not really. But I pulled my knees to my chest and sat there in silence. The fabric of the altered dress pooled around me, like something spilled and left to stain. I looked down at my hands, nails chipped, palms pressed to cold tile, and whispered, I'm disappearing in real time. And I saw myself again, 4th grade, being asked to step out of the class photo just for a minute to help the teacher pass out supplies. I never got called back in. My face never made the yearbook, always behind the curtain, always behind someone else's smile. But not this time. Back in the main hall, guests mingled near the rehearsal chart. I moved slowly toward it. My name wasn't on the top. Not under bride's table. Not near family. Table 11. Behind the DJ booth. My title? Guest of the groom. My breath caught. Not from surprise, but from fury cooling into something sharper. I walked up to the board, took the black marker from the planner's hand, and crossed it out. You want me invisible? I whispered. Watch me show up. The ink on my fingers had barely dried when morning came. I barely slept, drifting in and out of dreams that felt more like warnings than rest. When I stepped onto the venue grounds, the sun was already harsh, unforgiving, almost accusatory, as if even the sky wanted to see what kind of bride shows up to her own wedding after crossing out her assigned seat. I kept telling myself to breathe. 1 foot forward, then the other. I could still hear yesterday's defiance echoing in my head, but courage has a way of evaporating under daylight, especially when you're walking into a family that never wanted you to shine. The entrance opened into a polished walkway lined with white roses. Guests would file in later, smiling politely, pretending not to see anything out of place. But even now, the air hummed with pretense. I walked toward the large seating chart displayed on an easel, the gold frame glinting too brightly. My eyes found the top line first. Host and sister of the groom, Seraphine Davenport. Her name was written in the kind of gold calligraphy brides usually reserve for themselves. I scanned further. Bride's table, empty. My name, again, missing. And there I was, tucked away at table 9. Corner section. Guest of honor. The kind of title meant to decorate an afterthought. A long breath escaped me, slow and deliberate. So this is how they want to play it. I murmured. Looking back now, I should have realized humiliation was their favorite language. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. I felt her before I saw her. That soft perfume, magnolia and sugar, always too sweet to be real. Then her voice followed, bright and chirpy, like someone hosting a daytime talk show. Isn't the layout stunning? Seraphine said as she glided past me, her heels clicking with confidence that didn't belong to someone innocent. I stepped aside, letting her circle the chart as if admiring her own reflection. "You'll love your spot," she added, patting my arm. "It's quieter away from cameras. For privacy." "For privacy?" I repeated, feeling the edges inside me shift. "Funny. I thought brides liked the spotlight." Her smile twitched just for a second, but I caught it, the crack beneath the porcelain. She recovered quickly. "Well, some of us don't need attention to feel loved." And with that, she moved toward the bridesmaids, laughing at something that wasn't funny. I walked on, each step heavier, each breath slower. The garden that had once felt enchanting now felt staged, like someone had replaced the soil with glossy photos of what happiness was supposed to look like. My phone buzzed. A notification. Otok. I opened it, expecting a harmless congratulations. Instead, a college photo. Seraphine and Callan, arm in arm, laughing at something private. A caption written by a mutual friend. "Some couples are just timeless." My fingers turned numb around the phone. Heat rose behind my eyes, not jealousy, but a sting I couldn't swallow. Callan found me moments later, his expression tightening as soon as he saw my face. "What's wrong?" he asked, stepping closer. I turned the screen toward him. He stared at it, jaw working once. He didn't rush to explain, didn't panic. He just reached for my hand. "We're not that photo, Lucy," he said quietly. "We're this moment." His words landed softly, like a pressure valve releasing. But the ache lingered because history leaves shadows, even when someone stands in the light with you. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. The makeup room felt colder than before. The stylist buzzed around me, brushing powder across my cheekbones, smoothing down my hair, humming an old song that made the silence feel louder. I watched myself in the mirror, but my reflection didn't anchor me. It drifted. And then I saw it. Not my smile, not my face. Seraphine's, layered over mine, like she'd rehearsed this moment her entire life. I whispered, "If this is my wedding, why do I feel like a background dancer?" The stylist pretended not to hear. Maybe she didn't want to be wrapped in the fallout. Looking back now, I should have recognized that feeling, the sensation of standing in a room full of people, yet being the least visible person in it. It's the same way I felt in every family portrait growing up, the same way I felt at birthday parties where my candle got blown out by someone else. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. A rustle of fabric pulled my attention toward the doorway. Elsbeth, my grandmother, stepped inside, leaning slightly on her cane. She wasn't supposed to arrive this early. She rarely left the house unless she had to. But she came for me. She stood behind me, her hand warm on my shoulder, her voice soft enough for only me to hear. "This family has always been loudest when they're hiding something," she whispered. My throat tightened. She lifted the veil from the chair beside me, fingering the lace delicately. "You were never the quiet one," she added. "They just made sure no one heard you." Those words didn't feel like comfort. They felt like truth finally spoken aloud after being buried for decades. My fingers curled around the veil, gripping it like a lifeline. Time slipped. People moved in and out of the room. Voices rose and fell beyond the door. But inside me, something steadied, like a tide changing direction. I stood to adjust the veil, but it slipped through my fingers and fell to the floor. The lace spread across the carpet like a small accident no one bothered to stop. I didn't pick it up. Instead, I straightened my posture and looked toward the entrance, where guests were beginning to take their seats. Everything in me should have moved forward toward the aisle, toward the stage built for a version of me that had never existed. But my feet turned in the opposite direction. If no one planned to remember this day for me, then I'd make sure they wouldn't forget it. I don't remember how long I stood there after turning away from the aisle, but the sound of distant chatter carried through the hallway like waves pulling me backward. The world outside the bridal room kept moving, people laughing, chairs scraping, glasses clinking, while something in me finally held still. The veil lay on the floor behind me, abandoned like a symbol I no longer needed. I pushed open the door to the private suite, hoping for a breath, a moment, anything that felt like my own. What I found instead was my mother. She stood beside the vanity, her posture rigid with purpose. A folded letter rested on the surface in front of her, perfectly centered, as if she had rehearsed the placement. Sunlight filtered in through the blinds, cutting her face into stripes of light and shadow. "Lucy," she said softly, too softly, "you need to read this during the vows." I blinked. "What is it?" A gesture of goodwill, she replied, "It'll mean a lot to your sister." My sister, the same sister who put her name on the bride's table, the same sister who rearranged my wedding dress into a costume, the same sister who locked me in a closet and walked away. I reached for the letter. The paper felt heavier than it should have, thick with the weight of what I already sensed. I unfolded it slowly. The handwriting wasn't mine, and it wasn't Seraphine's either. It was my mother's. "Dear Seraphine, I'm sorry for making today about me." The words blurred on the page as something inside my chest tightened. This wasn't a letter of love. It was a script, another way to shape the narrative to make peace look like obedience. I glanced up at her. "You want me to apologize?" I said. To her. "She's had a hard week," my mother answered. "She's under pressure. And she's always been sensitive. You know that." Sensitive. That word again. Always applied to Seraphine, never to me, as if my reactions were inconveniences, while hers were gospel truth. I folded the letter in half. Looking back now, I should have walked away then. Before I could speak, the door opened. Seraphine stepped in with practiced concern stitched on her face. "Lucy," she whispered, tilting her head. "Are you okay? I heard you were upset earlier about the seating." Her tone held sympathy, but her eyes didn't. They danced, scanning me like she was measuring how much control she still had left. I didn't respond, so she tried again. "Listen, this is a big day. For someone who's never really been in the spotlight, it can be overwhelming." I turned fully toward her. "You mean someone who was never allowed to be in it?" Her expression flickered. A small crack, a flash of irritation before she smoothed it over. "I'm trying to help you, not mess this up," she said. "Everything needs to look perfect." Perfect for who? For her? For the family? For the guests who already thought she was the golden daughter? Before I could answer, the door clicked again. Callan entered quietly, holding his phone in his hand. Something in his face told me this wasn't a casual visit. "Lucy," he said, stepping closer, "I need to show you something." He held the screen toward me. A text message sent from a number that looked eerily close to mine. "Are you sure you want to do this? I can call it off if you're not ready." My throat dried. I never sent that. I know, he replied. Neither did I. He looked at me the way people do when they finally see all the fractures they've missed. We don't have to go through with any of this, he said softly. I'm with you, not the circus. His words settled deep, steadying something that had been shaking for weeks. For the first time, someone wasn't asking me to shrink. My mother cleared her throat sharply. This is not the time for drama. But Callan ignored her. His attention stayed on me. Only me. There's more, he said, lowering his voice. Your sister tried to change the prenup last week. She went to my attorney behind your back. The room tilted slightly, my balance shifting with the weight of what he'd just said. She did what? She said she was protecting your family's reputation. He explained. She wanted clauses added in case there was a scandal. Of course she did. Reputation came first. Truth came last. And I came somewhere after that. But I didn't sign, he said, because I knew you didn't know. Something in me cracked open, then, not from pain, but from clarity. All the ways they'd hidden, steered, reshaped my life, made sense in one breath. I looked at my reflection in the vanity mirror, and for once, I didn't see Seraphine's shadow behind my shoulder. I just saw myself, unnamed on the invitations, misplaced on seating charts, erased from videos, still standing. I picked up the apology letter again, walked toward the candle burning gently on the vanity, its small flame flickering like a heartbeat. My mother's voice rose. Lucy, don't you dare. I lowered the paper into the flame. It caught immediately, curling at the edges. The ink dissolved into ash. The apology that wasn't mine burned to nothing. I'm done apologizing for showing up to my own life, I said quietly. The room froze. Vera gasped as if I'd blasphemed. Seraphine stepped forward, anger twisting her features. What is wrong with you? She hissed. You're ruining everything. I turned to Callan, my voice steady. We're getting married, but not on their stage. His eyes warmed, not with pride, but with relief. I moved toward the closet in the corner of the room, the one Seraphine had insisted on using for storage, the one she probably assumed held nothing important. I opened it and pulled out my original dress, the gown she'd replaced, the one she decided wasn't good enough. It was wrinkled, crushed from neglect, but it was mine. Still mine. I held it against my chest like armor. Let them watch the wrong bride walk down the aisle. I whispered, and I meant every word. I didn't wait for anyone's reaction when I pulled out my original dress. I didn't need to. The air shifted the moment I held it to my chest, like even the walls realized I was done bending. As I stepped into the hallway, the muted hum of guests rolled toward me. For once, it didn't make my pulse spike. My heartbeat steadied, not from courage, but from finally refusing to break. The prep area buzzed with rushed whispers and forced smiles. I moved through it like someone entering their own cross-examination, every head turning, every conversation falling silent. The coordinator hurried over, clutching her clipboard like a shield. Oh, good, you're here. We just finalized the ceremony order. I need you to approve this. The printed schedule was elegant, tidy, nothing like the chaos behind it. Opening speech by Vera. Apology from Lucy. Sister's toast. I froze. I never agreed to this. I said, calm but firm. She blinked. Your mom said you were overwhelmed. I didn't agree. Her eyes flicked toward my mother by the archway, adjusting flowers she'd already rearranged a dozen times. She wouldn't look at me. Looking back, I should have realized how much they planned without me. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. I walked to the dressing station where my veil should have been. Instead, a long, fresh tear split the lace like a wound. Behind me, Seraphine's voice dripped sweetly. Well, that's unfortunate. She held ornate silver scissors, the same ones she used as a child to fix anything of mine she thought wasn't good enough. Probably got caught on something. She smiled. We'll pin it. Nobody will notice. Without looking away, I took the veil, walked to the trash bin, and dropped it in. You've pinned me down enough. A twitch broke her perfect expression. I saw it. That's where it all started. Before she could respond, a distant relative tapped my arm. Darlene, she said, using the wrong name without noticing. I hope you like the white envelope Talia sent. So generous. My stomach tightened. What envelope? Her smile faltered. You didn't get it. I excused myself and searched the gift table. There was a card with my name, wrong handwriting, and inside only a torn devotional quote. No gift, no check, nothing from Talia. Later, when I found her in the hallway, she whispered, I left money. Someone switched it. Melissa, I muttered. Of course. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. Back in the prep room, Vera intercepted me with another sheet of paper. She held it like scripture. Read this during the candle lighting. It'll show grace. It'll help your sister feel included. I scanned it. Lines of forced humility. Borrowed guilt. My mother's handwriting smoothing over the truth. You want me to read this? I asked. It would mean a lot to the family. The family, I repeated, the people who erased my name from invitations, who locked doors, who switched gifts, who told me silence was survival. Looking back now, I should have known my mother didn't want peace. She wanted performance. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. I lifted the page, feeling every expectation pressed into the ink. Then I tore it in half. The clean rip echoed through the room. Vera gasped. Lucy! I looked at Callan, behind me. Steady, quiet, certain. We're not walking out there like that. I said, we're doing it our way. He nodded once. My mother stepped forward, panicked. You're making a mistake. You're ruining this day. I inhaled. It's my day to ruin. For a moment, she had no script left to use. That silence felt like reclaiming the room. I walked toward the ceremony space, my original dress folded over my arm. Each step felt deliberate, me choosing myself for the first time in decades. Behind the curtain, I stopped. The garden stretched out before me, guests settling, soft chatter, sunlight warming the aisle. And at the altar, standing where I was meant to stand, holding a microphone like she owned it, Seraphine. Her smile gleamed for the cameras. Perfect. Practiced. They're still trying to erase me. I whispered. Then let them try while I walk through fire. The curtain brushed my arm as I stood at the edge of the aisle, my breath stuck somewhere between my ribs and my throat. I hadn't planned this moment. I hadn't rehearsed a word. But when I saw Seraphine in my place, poised, smiling, microphone in hand, something long buried in me stirred. Something tired of being erased. I stepped forward. The chatter of the crowd faded into a low hum. My dress, wrinkled and imperfect, brush my legs as I walked. The light pouring through the garden canopy felt too honest, like it was finally ready to expose what had always been hidden. Seraphine's voice drifted through the air, syrupy sweet. My sister asked me to begin with something meaningful. I paused behind the curtain, heart pounding, then settling. Of course, she would try to claim this too. She took the invitations, the vows, the dress. Why not the ceremony? But I wasn't going to let her have this. I stepped into the sunlight. Gasps fluttered across the garden. My dress was creased. My veil was missing. But the way I stood, shoulders back, chin raised, turned every flaw into a statement. I didn't walk to the spot they marked for me. I walked to the front. Callan emerged from the side, falling in beside me. No words needed. His presence steadied me. Seraphine's smile flickered. "There's something I need to show you," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. Vera stood from the front row, reaching toward me. "Lucy, not now," she hissed. I stepped past her. "I'm done being spoken for." Whispers rippled through the guests. Some shifted nervously. Others leaned in. Callan turned and gave a nod to the tech at the back. The screen behind the altar lit up. At first, confusion. Then, soft lighting, a hallway. Seraphine walking fast, glancing over her shoulder. Another figure behind her, me, being dragged. A hand on my arm. A door. A shove. The lock clicking shut. And Seraphine's face calm, composed. Gasps. Disbelief. But I had lived it. The dark of that closet. The silence that followed. A hush fell. Elsbeth stood from the third row, my grandmother, eyes glistening. "There it is," she said softly, though everyone heard her. The garden froze. Even the birds seemed to stop. Then Albin stood, jaw tight. "Turn that off," he snapped. "This is family business." I looked him in the eye. "You made it public when you hid the truth." He pointed at me, shaking. "We don't destroy each other in front of strangers." "You did it behind closed doors for 34 years. I replied, "I'm just showing where it started." The crowd stirred, awkward, curious, charged, but not silent anymore. That's when Elsbeth spoke again. Let her speak. We all saw it. The truth doesn't ruin families. It reveals them. Her voice cracked the silence like thunder. Vera looked away. Seraphine paled. Albin stopped like his authority had been unplugged. And for the first time, I felt the weight shift. I stepped to the microphone. Every swallowed word, every buried truth gathered in my chest. "I'm not asking for your blessing," I said. "I'm claiming my space, publicly, clearly, finally." People leaned closer, like they wanted to remember how I sounded when I wasn't apologizing. I adjusted the mic. "Steady now. Let's start this ceremony again." But this time as me, that's where it all began. I hadn't even finished lowering the mic when her voice sliced through the silence. "This isn't how it's supposed to be. You're ruining everything." Seraphine. She was already halfway up the steps, her heels stabbing into the wood like she wanted the stage to remember her too. Her hand reached toward me, not to grab me, but the mic, the moment, the control. But I took one step back. Callan moved between us, not aggressive, just firm. A barrier she wasn't used to encountering. "You need to calm down," he said softly. Her eyes flashed. "You're choosing her over this family?" Callan didn't flinch. "I'm choosing the truth." I tightened my grip on the mic. My voice came quiet, but it didn't shake. You can't ruin what wasn't real to begin with. That was the first time Seraphine looked truly uncertain. She stepped back, not far, but enough. Enough to let the moment shift. The guests sat in a stunned hush, unsure whether to applaud or leave. That breathless limbo where truth has just detonated, but the smoke hasn't cleared. Looking back now, I should have known that this would be the final test. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. I turned, not toward the altar, not toward the aisle, but away. My heels clicked against the stone path, steady and deliberate. Callan's hand slid into mine, and we walked shoulder to shoulder down the center of the crowd. No music played, just the crunch of gravel beneath our steps and the soft gasp of people realizing this was not the wedding they came for. "Lucy," Seraphine called behind us. "You're turning your back on family." I didn't look back, but someone else answered. "No," Elsbeth said from the front row, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. "She's walking toward her future." No one dared respond. We kept walking, past the floral arch, past the photographer, past the woman in the headset whispering frantically into her earpiece, past all of it, until we were off the stage entirely. That's where it all started. Elsbeth's garden was only a short walk, but it felt like miles away from everything we had just left behind. The late afternoon sun bled through the orange trees' leaves, casting amber shadows across the yard. A small wooden table stood beneath its branches. 2 mismatched chairs beside it. No aisle, no stage, no script. Talia stood beside the table, adjusting the vase of garden-cut flowers. She smiled when she saw me. "You look exactly like yourself." That meant more than any compliment I'd ever been given. Elsbeth nodded toward the tree. No need for vows when your actions already said everything. We stood together, Callan and I, under the same branches I used to climb as a child when I wanted to disappear from the world. But this time I wasn't hiding. I was home. We exchanged rings in silence, just the birds above and the breath between us. Callan leaned close, whispered, "You still sure?" I nodded, now more than ever. Looking back now, I realized I wasn't just reclaiming my wedding. I was reclaiming the girl who once thought her voice wasn't worth hearing. I didn't know what was waiting for me next. Later, only a handful of guests joined us at the garden table. Elsbeth, Talia, 2 friends from college who had always stood at the edges of the chaos, quietly choosing kindness. Vera didn't come. Albin didn't come. Seraphine didn't dare. When it was all over, Maritza approached me, quiet as ever, holding a small envelope. "I wanted to give you this," she said. Before I could speak, she left, disappearing into the evening like someone who had done her part. Inside the envelope was a folded page, handwritten, simple, a statement of what she'd seen the day of the baby's shower. Signed, witnessed, sworn. She hadn't just seen me locked away. She had decided to speak. That's where it all started. Later that night, back at the apartment, Callan curled up beside me, the golden light of evening still lingering on our skin. My phone buzzed once, then again. I opened it. Notifications. Dozens. The ceremony video had leaked. Someone, maybe a guest, maybe a staff member, had posted the footage. And it was spreading. Comments flooded in. Some vicious. Most not. One stood out. "Thank you for showing me I can walk away too." I sat in silence, rereading those words. Then I let my hand rest on my stomach. I hadn't told anyone yet, not even Callan, but I whispered it into the quiet like a promise. You'll never grow up thinking you don't belong. And I meant it, because I just proved we do. The morning sunlight filtered in through gauzy curtains, washing the kitchen in soft gold. I sat at the table barefoot, coffee warm between my palms, watching a bee drift lazily past the window. The garden outside was still dewy. Callan's footsteps echoed faintly from the hallway, a quiet rhythm that matched my breath. 2 weeks had passed, and yet the wedding felt suspended in time, both close enough to touch and far enough to be someone else's memory. It hadn't broken me. That was the strangest part. It had cracked something open, yes, but what spilled out wasn't weakness. It was space. They didn't change, I whispered to myself, thumb tracing the rim of the mug. But I did. Beside me, my laptop blinked with unread emails, congratulations from distant cousins, interview requests, a dozen subject lines screaming brave, like they hadn't once called me the quiet one who always obeyed. I hadn't opened a single one. Not yet. That's where it all started. A soft knock at the door broke the hush. Callan opened it with a smile, collected the small stack of mail, and set it beside my cup. I flipped through it absent-mindedly, ads, a bill, something from the insurance company, and then paused. One envelope stood out. Heavy cream paper, inked by hand. No return address. I opened it slowly, heart stuttering without knowing why. Inside was a single orange blossom, pressed flat, still holding the shape of sun, and a card. You weren't made to please this family. It read in Elsbeth's script, delicate but fierce. You were made to start a new one. I didn't cry. Not immediately. I just closed my eyes, letting the words settle somewhere deep and quiet. When I opened them again, the sunlight felt warmer. The room felt earned. That's where it all started. Later that afternoon, another package arrived, this time from Talia. She didn't call first. She never had to. Inside, the original check, reissued, same amount, same careful penmanship. But this time, it came with a note. This time, it'll reach the right hands. Love, Talia. I didn't cry then either. Instead, I framed the envelope, not for the money, but for what it stood for. A woman giving another woman what was always hers without condition or commentary. Quiet restitution. Grace without the spotlight. I placed it beside Elsbeth's card on my bookshelf. Not as trophies, but as anchors. That's where it all started. There were no voicemails from Vera. No apology from Albin. Seraphine's account had gone private, like her silence could erase the footage still echoing across corners of the internet. I didn't block them. I didn't reach out either. Forgiveness didn't live in those spaces. Not because I hated them, but because I finally understood. Forgiveness is not forgetting. It's choosing peace without asking for permission. I said goodbye the way people do, when there's nothing left to fix, only room to grow. That's where it all started. Callan walked in, carrying 2 mugs. He handed me tea this time, not coffee. Maybe he could feel the shift in me too. He kissed my forehead, his thumb brushing my shoulder. How's today feel? Still, I said, still like a lake, or still like a room you forgot you were in. Still like breathing without bracing for impact. He smiled. That's new. I rested my hand on my belly. I hadn't said it aloud yet. I didn't need to. The weight of it sat gently inside me, not as a burden, but as a whisper of what's next. We're already starting something better. I murmured. He didn't ask what I meant. He just took my hand. And together we stepped out into the yard, the morning wrapping around us like a second skin. Not as escapees, as founders. I looked back once, not at a house or a name, but at the version of me that stayed too long in rooms that only wanted her silence. I had rewritten the ending, and I hadn't lost a thing worth keeping. This isn't a new beginning. It's the life that should have always been mine. They didn't break me. They rewrote me. And this time, I held the pen. So let me ask you this. Have you ever stayed quiet just to keep the peace, only to realize it was costing you your place in the room? If this story struck something in you, don't stay silent. Leave a comment, share your voice. And don't forget to subscribe for more stories about reclaiming what was always yours.